Hello and welcome to another edition of Worth Reading. We'll be looking at the second Scythe book called The Thunderhead. It's no surprise that the first book, as good as it was, would get a sequel, and I also recommend that as well, of course. If you don't know anything about Neal Shusterman, he does a whole bunch of macabre-style books, usually done in the future. And in this case, being the sequel, obviously the setting is the same, the genre is also the same. This is a dystopian, utopian, futuristic world where humanity is immortal, but we strangely have an overpopulation problem, and thus we have an organization of people called Scythes who have to cull the people who procreate too much. And because that immortality is an issue, you get to a certain age and you can rewind your genetics or your age, as it were, going back to like 21, and you can start another family, you can do all these things. And the reason why you have all this freedom is because there is a benevolent AI. And this benevolent AI does not interfere with human behavior. It just is a guardian. It takes care of technology. It takes care of all the AI robotics and all the autonomous behavior needed to keep economies and people going. So because it can't interfere, you have to think of it in terms of like a big brother metaphor, but a benevolent big brother. So imagine if Siri and Google merge into like some sort of super consciousness, and it's always watching. It has all these cameras everywhere. It's making sure people are okay and adhering to the basic laws that they've set. So because of this futuristic world, all forms of government have been long removed, and it has all sorts of cool things like public cars that drive themselves. You can just hail one and they'll take you wherever you want to go. And of course it has the voice of the Thunderhead, which is what the book is mostly about. Now, like in the previous book, each chapter is either prefaced or ended with an intro, and that's a little anecdote or a diary entry from the Scythe. Now in this, or a Scythe, from this story, it's mostly the Thunderhead talking to us, or probably to itself in general. And you know, it is talking about what it means to be a guardian of humanity, what it means to be a god, essentially, because he's so all-knowing and all-powerful. And what that means to better humanity. How is he helping humanity? And that's really one of the conflicts of the book, not in a storytelling way, but in a self-realization, as if a thinker is just talking to you and he's sitting by himself and thinking, what should I do to help humanity? So that's not really a conflict inherent as you would a storytelling conflict between characters and plots, but just as a thing of going through this being's mind. Interestingly enough, there are some elements of science fiction which I found not out of place, but I wasn't expecting it. And one of them is space exploration. They talk about how all the attempts, as smart as this AI is, all the attempts at space exploration have failed. It's been miserable. And he's essentially giving up, or it is essentially giving up, saying, you know, this is all we've got. The planet is all we have. There is a Hideo Kojima moment, or a Hideo Kojima idea. I don't want to start bringing that into you know, giving you any spoilers at all. This is non-spoiler related video, but it sort of took you by surprise, like, oh, you went that route, okay. And it's not done superficially. It's actually a major component. It's about 500 pages. There's about 5 plot threads. Of course, the main characters from the previous story are there. Citra and Rowan plots are there. They invent a new character called Greyson. He's probably the main character of the whole story. And what's wonderful about these plots is these 5 plots, is they're actual subplots unto themselves. That's how you really should do writing when you have multiple characters. They're all coming to a point, and they all intertwine in interesting ways. There's perhaps one subplot, which is, I wouldn't say out of place, it's just a totally different style and pace as the other subplots. I think it's even neglected about a third to a half of the story, where they just sort of, oh yeah, that guy was doing something, and you know, it's kind of like an Indiana Jones thing minus the action, so you're just kind of curious where it's going. Now there are 2 plots that don't resolve themselves, because that's he's doing a trilogy here, so we're waiting for the sequel to pop up whenever that comes. So that's normal. That's nothing wrong with doing it that way. I just felt that one subplot felt just not out of place, just sort of slow and forgotten at times. So obviously that's all being set up for the third book. The one thing about Neal Shusterman is his style. It's why you read these books, or his books, is because his style is so tight. It's a novella, again, it's 500 pages, but you can read a few chapters after 10, 20 minutes. Like, he does it very tightly. So if you're ever busy, if you're ever going downtown, if you're ever going on a trip, or you got like 5 minutes, you can read a few chapters. It goes by very quickly. That's what I love about his style. It's just so tight and clean. So if you haven't read the first one, please definitely go and do that. The style there is really what you're reading for, and he is very good at doing so. You'll fall in love with the characters from the first book. You'll want to keep going with the second. And please do click on the affiliate link beneath if you want to get the Amazon link to pick up your book. I'll be doing a longer, more spoiler-filled one with Jordan Owen on our book talk series. It's not out yet on his channel, but I'll be posting a link and updating this video description later. So, hey, check it out. Thunderhead, I think it's called The Arc of the Scythes trilogy by Neal Shusterman.